welcome to Up Close and Personal. I'm Joni Wedler, and on today's show we have a very special guest. He is the new town manager for the town of Plainville, Michael Paulhus. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's so good to have you because we've read a lot in the newspaper about you, and you're coming from North Branford, Connecticut.
Correct.
But we really wanted to do an Up Close and Personal to find out more about you, not just your time in town government, but what led you to town government and what you did before, and some of the exciting things that you've done since your time in the Peace Corps, which is very interesting. So let's start first with a little bit background about you. You are currently in North Branford as the town manager, and you've been there for 9 years.
Correct.
And you hold two different master's degree, a Master of Arts in International Affairs and also a Master of Arts in Public Affairs. Very impressive, along with your Bachelor of Biology. So let's talk about the biology piece before we get into town government, if we could. So you joined the Peace Corps.
Yeah, well, undergraduate, I was biology, and like many students, trying to find a path and thought maybe, going to med school, and that quickly was put to rest. But I stuck with the biology and got that degree, and used that as a stepping stone to get into the Peace Corps. And with a biology degree, I went into what's called, at the time, aquaculture, and was trained as a fisheries volunteer to work with farmers in Tanzania and East Africa, fish farmers working with tilapia and freshwater fish ponds, and tilapia is indigenous to Tanzania, and it's a very fast-growing fish. And at the time, and my service was 89 to 91, I don't think anybody back here at home knew what tilapia was, but it was very interesting and rewarding experience, and that opened my world, opened my eyes to just doing other things. And so it put me on a track to thinking that I wanted to do international development work and to come back and look at working for maybe Save the Children or UNICEF or something like that. And when I came back, it was interesting, actually. The Peace Corps experience is typically a 2-year service, a 2-year commitment. And for my experience in Tanzania, from 89 to 91, the first Gulf War broke out, and the ambassador at the time felt that we were unsafe in terms of the program, and so he actually shut the program down, and I was just about 2 months shy of finishing service. So I found myself on the plane in the middle of the night and on my way back to the U.S. going, what am I going to do? And so I went back to school in thought of trying to get back into the international development work, and that's my first master's in international affairs, was to do that. And I found once I got that I went out, I didn't have any practical experience other than the 2 year of field experience. I had no administrative experience, so to speak. So I thought, well, I'm living at home in Willimantic, and UConn is right up the road, and I thought, perfect, administrative. I'll get a degree in public administration and see what happens. And I was halfway through when a position opened up locally in the town of Windham as an executive administrator to the first selectman, and I went for it, got it, and then that just kind of changed my whole path to public service and local government.
So we're going to go back to the fish for a minute. So tilapia. So when you were doing field work, you were actually working with the farmers.
Yes.
And the reason that they had special pools or ponds that they were building sustainability for food, and teaching people how to raise that fish?
Yeah, so it's an agricultural extension, aquaculture, in terms of Tanzania, and the region I was in Muheza, in the northern region, has great soil, clay soil, perfect for building freshwater fish ponds. And so it was already established. I was taking over for a previous Peace Corps volunteer, and was out on a motorcycle and driving out to meet farmers where I could find them, and network and teach and educate them, and bringing the fingerlings, which are the very small fish that you use to populate the ponds, and just working through harvest. And so for the farmer, it was economics, right? So it was they were able to sell their fish, but they would sell it. It was so popular that they wouldn't have to have a market. The village was the market, right? So it was a protein source for the families within the village, but enough for the farmer to make some money in terms of each harvest that they would have.
What was their major source of food at the time?
Their cassava is a root like a potato, and corn and maize, and it's really subsistence farming at the time, and it was very economically distressed. I mean, this is third world country, and so living on less than $1 a day, and it's really, just poverty, just extensive poverty, and so this was a way to try to introduce some income generating, but also mainly as a protein source, which was great. And it was like a festival come harvest time, and to drag the net through and fish, flopping around everywhere, and it's just like a carnival type of festival type atmosphere. It was great. And so,
did you have to learn Swahili?
I did.
Because
yes.
You would have to talk to them.
I did. Not very well, but I did. And for me, I'm not a linguist, and it was a struggle for me, but it was something. But I did get to a level of proficiency. You have to. It's a full immersion type program. Mm-hmm. So you went through classes in cultural and language classes in Tanzania for 10 weeks prior to being assigned to our village or our region for the work that we were doing. And
how many were you?
We were a large group of about 50. There were only 4 of us designated for fisheries. The rest of them were mainly teachers, mm-hmm. and engineers building roads, and other agricultural farmers, and so forth. But just 4 of us in terms of fisheries. So
we're talking to the new town manager of Plainville, Michael Paulhus, about his early years, and you have stayed as a board director of an organization that's still in Tanzania, yes. Which is on your LinkedIn page, and I encourage anyone to take a look at that, because I did watch the YouTube video about how this organization has developed over time. And the thing that was my takeaway was how happy the children were to be in school. Oh, yeah. Interesting story there. So as I mentioned, each Peace Corps volunteer that came to, or as a group of 50 that we arrived in 1989, we did our 10-week training outside of what was then the capital city of Dar es Salaam, and right on the Indian Ocean, beautiful town called Bagamoyo. And in Bagamoyo, we had the institute and we had training, but in Swahili, Bagamoyo means lay down your heart, and it was the port for the slave trade out of Africa. And so it was rich in history, rich in culture, and we did our training there. And so I did my 2 years service, had a great time, came back to the States, and years later connected with the orphanage and the home and the school, the Baobab Home, and it's just been a great relationship. And I had since volunteering, moved from volunteer to board director on that. It's a great organization, and I'm just happy to be able to make a difference, because the school is a primary school and private, and it's just thriving and growing, and that's exactly what the country needs. Mm-hmm. And when you see the children all happy to be in uniform. Yeah. All loving that they're all wearing the same color, all loving the fact that they're having their picture taken, that they're learning, mm-hmm. that they're growing. Yeah. There's such an appetite for that. You see a real difference for learning and education. Yeah. And it's I would say completely different, but much different than the government schools, and where corporal punishment is often a problem, and so families they can afford it, and most of them can't. So that's why the board does fundraising and sponsorships, so that you can sponsor a student to go to the school, and they thrive, and they're getting 2 meals in addition to the education. Knowing that they're getting 2 meals a day is big draw. Yeah. So when you came back from that experience, you decided to go back to school, but then you also joined or became a wealth management advisor or financial advisor?
Along my path, yes. I was in government service in the town of Windham, where I got my career started, and then did a short interim stint in North Branford after Windham, and it was from there that I changed gears and went into the private sector for 5 years at RBC Wealth Management, and just a whole new skill set in terms of financial skill sets.
Which you can certainly bring to any town.
Yeah, any town, right. Yeah.
Which is great. But the differences between the private sector and being in municipal government is very different.
Absolutely.
And you really seem like the fabric of your being is service.
Yes.
And you know, from your early time in Tanzania to municipal government, and so you really enjoy that, and so you decided to go back into that.
I did.
And
and I had relationships with the municipalities, an opportunity to work with them in terms of buying bonds and municipal markets and so forth. So I stayed engaged with people that I knew, and one of which was in North Branford, and so 5 years later they came, calling and said, we can't find anybody. Would you like to come back? And I was enticed back into the public sector, back to North Branford.
Well, it's a really good feeling to know that kind of thing happens, and that's also some of those connections has gotten you now to Plainville.
Yes.
So I asked you if you were sad about Friday being your last day in North Branford, and you said, yeah, I am. Yeah. And obviously you're excited about a new opportunity, but tell us about the work you've done in North Branford.
Well, yeah, great community. A lot of similarities in respect that it's a smaller town surrounded by larger towns, and same with Plainville. And population, North Branford is about 14,000, and Plainville is a little bit bigger at 17,000, give or take. And but the finances are great, and great bond rating, and so I'm sad because you kind of put down roots and you develop these relationships and so yeah, it's tough to walk away, but Plainville offers an opportunity for growth, and for me, again, it was like taking a step back after my interim position with North Branford the first time around, and say, maybe I can try something different, and that's when I decided to do wealth management with RBC, and that was a great experience and a great run, and again, it's relationships that I continue to have, and it helps build the professional resume, if you will. Mm-hmm. And you find yourself in a spot. I kept in touch like I did with North Branford with individuals in Plainville. So that was sort of the connection and the lure, because I've been hearing great things and knew about it, and so I was like, okay, I'm all ears, I'm listening, and so it was a very, very attractive. They made a great case, and they got me, and they reeled me in, so to speak.
It's a wonderful community. Plainville's a wonderful community. Of course, Nutmeg TV was in Plainville for many, many years. Our location was there, and we wanted to stay there. When we got to the point where we were able to buy a building, it was difficult for us to find a building that was about 10,000 square feet, because there were really big complexes or really, really small ones. And so we worked with economic development. They were wonderful to try to find us a home in Plainville, because Plainville has that hometown feel. It's maintained that all these years. The people there are very proud of that. We certainly do. We love Farmington, but we miss our Plainville friends. So you were enticed to come to Plainville, and you were part of a group of candidates, applicants who are being interviewed for the position. What is that process?
Well, it's an interview with the council, and a lot of information in terms of an application and questions that we go through, and so I'm just very fortunate and happy to come out on top and to be have an offer and accept it, and I'll be starting August 15th.
Can you tell us a little bit about the transition when a new town manager comes in? What does that look like? Is the former town manager typically a available? Are there staff members that provide some kind of a transition?
Yeah, it depends, and Plainville's been great, fantastic. The retiring town manager, Robert Lee, has been absolutely fantastic, and the staff as well. Very, open and welcoming, so that I have had the opportunity, because of their schedules a little bit different than North Branford's, in the sense that they have a late Thursday night evening hours, that I'm able to come in and also kind of, they start earlier, so I can come in earlier on my way into North Branford. And so we work through sitting down in terms of projects, and I've had a lot of time already before I've even started to get a feel for meeting people, meeting the staff, hearing what they're working on, what's in the pipeline, what they're planning for. So it's so far so good. Yeah, it's been great.
Well, we knew we wanted to try to schedule you for this interview prior to you getting going, because we know that it's going to be hit the ground running.
Right.
Just because Plainville's a small town doesn't mean that it doesn't have an enormous agenda for the workload that's upon you. What is your management style?
Well, I like to be collaborative. I like to, an open door policy where, I want department heads to bring me the good and the bad, right? I don't want to hear about it, I want to hear about it right away. So I think it's all about communication. And again, I'm not a micromanager, so I want to empower the department heads to do what they do best, right? And so I'm not going to pretend to be an engineer or to be a superintendent of a treatment plant. It's not my skill set, but I'm sort of the quarterback, if you will, and I've got to manage the department heads and staff. And so I look to have, an open door policy and work collaboratively with the staff and the community and the council. And the council's been wonderful, and I've had an opportunity to sit in on those meetings, as you know, and you've covered it. It's been great, and because the learning curve can be steep, and the more I can get and research time and sit with Robert and sit with staff and sit with department heads, that's just going to help me, when I hit, so like you said, hit the ground running.
As far as the public is concerned, what is your feelings about transparent government? What are your feelings about interacting with the general public, residents of Plainville? Any ideas or things that have worked for you in other areas that you'd like to bring to Plainville?
Yeah, no, I think it's important, really important, because we're serving the community. We want to serve them well, and we want to put our best foot forward. So we really have to be open and honest about what, and as much as we can, think about new ways to communicate. And this is a great resource, and I'm hoping that I can learn more about how to reach the community. I know I've got more to learn from Robert and the staff, because I know he's been pretty active on Facebook and social media, so that's not exactly my forte, but I'm going to learn, and I think facilities like this will help me, and your programs are going to help me, because I think it is all about sharing information and having the public in the know. So what can they learn, that they may not know, and just to be informed. Yes. Right? And so, open government means that, yes, you can attend the meeting, unless, of course, it's, a personnel meeting or an executive session or something like that. But come to the meetings, read the minutes, watch them, right? Get online and be engaged. And I realize and recognize that engagement is a sliding scale, so to speak. So some people are really engaged, and some are busy in their everyday lives and world that maybe there's just different forms. They're getting information in different ways, right. And some are just busy on everyday lives, that they don't often take a moment to say, yeah, did you know that they're breaking ground on a new project? Or yeah, maybe they heard it, maybe they didn't. So I think we have to be sort of like in campaign mode to push information out as much as we can.
In as many ways as you can.
As many ways,
Those
exactly.
small sound bites, which gives a link to more information, or that longer piece of information that someone may be able to stay with and learn more about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I think if people feel that they're part of the process as a resident, it's very important for them. Now, Plainville, I'm sure, works very closely with surrounding communities, as well as the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, to work on state initiatives that may be available, and that you can all take part in, or find out about information that may be affecting one community and not another. What would you say one of your goals would be for the town of Plainville as you look to begin your tenure?
Well, I think there's a great opportunity with economic development, and the White Oak project is one for sure. I'm hoping to get educated and engaged in potentially the activities and with the Balloon Fest. I don't know, I've heard a lot about it, but
you're going to have a ride.
Well,
we all hold them to that.
I'm ambitious and adventurous, I guess, and I'll try. But I'd like to really get out and get to know the community. That's my deficit, right? So I'm coming in as the new person. I really have to engage, and I have to know what the fabric of the community is. So I am going to look at, what they have already moving, like White Oak and other projects. And I really need to be a student of what's happening here, of the community, before I make any decisions in terms of direction. I know it's well run. It's been well run. It's a great community, financially stable and secure, which is great. It's fantastic. That's exactly what we want. I want to continue to move. I think we want to be efficient, open government, efficient government, and provide services, at a very high level, So there's a lot that we don't think about. We just take for granted in terms of, getting our roads plowed and service and garbage pickup, and our school systems are desirable, and people want to live here, and they move here and want to live here because of the quality of life. So. It's hard to piece out or pull out the different components, but it's a lot about quality of life.
And I think, too, that being an outsider, not necessarily an outsider, but being new to that town and seeing it through fresh eyes is very important. As much as we think that we know our business because we've been doing this for a very long time, there are times someone new comes in and says, why don't you look at it this way? And it's just right in front of us, and we didn't see it. And so I think that that's a welcome thing for anyone coming in new, and to hear that you want to learn about the community is wonderful. We're talking with the new town manager, Michael Paulhus, on his the beginning of his Plainville run here as town manager. And I want to close, we're at the end of our time, but you wrote a piece on stress in the workplace. And since the pandemic, what you have chosen to do as a professional to keep that level of balance, because the pandemic threw all kinds of things into our work world and our home lives and our how we need to stay balanced. And what would be your takeaways that you have changed about yourself?
For me personally, I think it's about self-care. It really is. You get to a point where it was fast and furious. I mean, everything was turned upside down, so to speak, and it was like we had not faced this on this level, and so many different things were being thrown at us, right? And we have to adapt and overcome. But for just about everybody, I think that the stress level just kept creeping. Right, so your body reacts to that, right, and so you have to, I think, have the indicators and to know. So I've explored and looked into that, and I think it's important for everybody. And for me personally, I've adopted it and like to do meditation. I wouldn't say a lifestyle change, but it's pretty much what it is, and just thinking healthier, being healthier. And practicing healthier things. So, incorporating, and it doesn't have to be overnight. It's just small progressive steps. So start with learning a little bit about meditation. doing some meditation, maybe yoga, maybe something else, and start walking, start running. Anything to exercise and movement is great for the body, great for the soul. And so for me, I've tried to incorporate that, and then food is a big piece, right? So healthy diet, healthy exercise, and then but also for a lot of people, prayer is an important piece of their life, and that can bring a certain solace and a certain clearing of the head as well. So.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And it also makes for close community.
Yes, it does.
And we all need community, and we're delighted to have you and welcome you to the Plainville community.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for letting us get up close and personal with you. And until next time, for all of us at Nutmeg TV, we'll see you soon.